Before you click away, let me ask you something honest. How many times have you felt your energy drop just because of one person? One comment, one look, one sentence that stayed in your mind longer than it should have. You were motivated 5 minutes ago, focused, clear, and then someone spoke. And suddenly, you started questioning yourself. What if I told you that the real reason you feel drained is not because they are powerful, but because you were never taught how to be untouchable? Stay with me, because what you are about to hear might completely shift the way you deal with negative people for the rest of your life. Most advice tells you to ignore them, to avoid them, to cut them off. But what if you cannot? What if they are your coworkers, your family, your closest circle? What if negativity is something you face every single day? Here is the truth nobody explains clearly. The problem is not their negativity. The problem is your reaction to it. And once you understand how to control that reaction, how to strengthen your internal mindset, and how to turn their doubt into your fuel, you will reach a level of emotional discipline that most people never experience. By the end of this message, you will not just feel motivated, you will feel equipped. You will understand how to walk into a negative room and remain steady, how to hear criticism without shrinking, how to face doubt without losing direction. So do not skip ahead. Do not half listen, because the shift you are about to experience is not surface level motivation. It is mental armor. And once you build that armor, negativity will never control you again. Let's go deeper into something most people misunderstand. You cannot control negative people. You cannot control what they say about you, what they assume about you, or how they interpret your ambition. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop wasting energy trying to manage other people's emotions. Most people think staying positive means convincing others to be positive too. That is not strength, that is dependency. If your peace depends on someone else behaving correctly, you are not peaceful. You are fragile. The real power begins when you understand a simple psychological truth. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your freedom. Someone criticizes you, that is the stimulus. Your anger, your defensiveness, your over-explaining, that is the response. But in between those two moments is a gap, and in that gap is your authority. Most people react instantly. They hear doubt, and they fire back. They hear sarcasm, and they escalate. They hear discouragement, and they start defending their worth. Why? Because their ego feels attacked. But negativity is not always an attack. Sometimes it is projection. Sometimes it is someone revealing their limitations, not yours. When you react emotionally, you hand over control. You let someone else determine your state of mind. Think about that carefully. A single sentence from another human being can ruin your entire day. That is not their power. That is your permission. Emotional self-control is not suppression. It is selection. It is the deliberate choice to decide which thoughts deserve your attention and which do not. Not every opinion is a command. Not every criticism is a verdict. And not every loud voice is a wise one. Negative people often operate from fear, fear of failure, fear of change, fear of being left behind. When you decide to grow, your growth becomes a mirror. And not everyone likes what they see in that reflection. So they question you, they minimize your vision, they call it unrealistic. But what they are really saying is, I am uncomfortable with what your ambition reveals about my comfort. If you react with defensiveness, you signal insecurity. But when you respond with calm, something shifts. Calm is not weakness. Calm is controlled power. It communicates that you are not easily moved, and people quickly learn that negativity does not get a reaction from you. And here is something that may challenge you. Sometimes silence is the strongest statement you can make. We are conditioned to think we must respond to everything, we must explain ourselves, we must correct every misunderstanding. But maturity teaches you that not every battle deserves your participation. If someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no explanation will satisfy them. If someone is determined to see the worst in you, clarity will not change their lens. The disciplined mind asks a different question. Instead of asking, how do I stop them from being negative? It asks, Why am I allowing their negativity to disturb me? That question brings the focus back where it belongs, on you. Your reaction reveals your level of inner stability. When you are secure in your direction, criticism becomes data, not drama. When you are confident in your values, sarcasm becomes noise, not threat. When you know who you are, other people's opinions lose their authority. This does not mean you ignore all feedback. It means you filter it. There is a difference between constructive criticism and chronic negativity. One is designed to help you improve. The other is designed to keep you small. Wisdom is knowing which is which. And wisdom requires emotional distance. If someone says, "That will never work," instead of reacting, ask yourself, is there any useful information here? If the answer is no, discard it. If the answer is yes, extract the lesson and move forward. Notice what you are doing in that moment. You are responding, not reacting. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. The mind that reacts is ruled by impulse. The mind that responds is ruled by principle. And principles create stability. When you stop reacting, something interesting happens. Negative people lose interest. They thrive on emotional exchange. They thrive on seeing you unsettled. When they realize you are not available for that dynamic, the energy shifts. You become difficult to provoke, and when you become difficult to provoke, you become powerful. Control over your reaction is not just about staying calm. It is about protecting your focus. Every emotional reaction costs you attention, and attention is your most valuable resource. If you spend it arguing, defending, and proving, you will have little left for building, creating, and progressing. Think about how many dreams are delayed because someone reacted instead of responding. A comment triggered doubt, a criticism triggered retreat, a negative opinion triggered hesitation, and momentum was lost. Not because the criticism was true, but because the reaction was strong. You must decide that your vision is too important to be interrupted by someone else's mindset. There will always be negativity. In your workplace, in your family, online, in conversations you did not even ask to be part of. The goal is not to eliminate it. The goal is to become stable within it. When you master your response, negativity becomes background noise instead of a steering wheel. And understand this clearly. Self-control is not about appearing composed in public while boiling inside. It is about genuinely reframing the situation internally. When you realize that someone's negativity reflects their internal state more than your external reality, it stops feeling personal. And what is not personal does not provoke. This is psychological maturity. This is emotional leadership. You become the kind of person who cannot be easily shaken, not because life is easy, not because people are always kind, but because you have trained yourself to pause, to evaluate, to choose. That pause is your power. So the next time someone doubts you, pause. The next time someone criticizes you unfairly, pause. The next time someone tries to pull you into their pessimism, pause. In that space, remind yourself that you are not required to participate in every emotional invitation. You are responsible for your reaction, and your reaction determines your trajectory. If you want to rise, you must learn to remain steady. If you want to lead, you must learn to stay composed. And if you want to stay positive in a negative environment, you must first master the one environment you fully control, your own mind. Because the moment you stop reacting impulsively is the moment you start living intentionally. And intentional living is where real power begins. Now let's take this further, because controlling your reaction is only the beginning. If you truly want to stay positive around negative people, you must build something stronger than reaction control. You must build internal strength. You must create an inner environment so stable that the outer environment cannot easily disturb it. Most people focus on managing people. Very few focus on managing their own mind. That is why they feel drained. That is why they feel overwhelmed. That is why a single negative comment can echo in their head for hours. It is not because the comment was powerful. It is because their internal foundation was unprepared. You cannot expect to think strong tea. Houts, if you feed your mind weak input, your brain is constantly absorbing information. Conversations, social media, news, music, the tone of your household, the attitude of your friends, all of it shapes your internal dialogue, and your internal dialogue shapes your emotional state. If your internal voice is already doubtful, then external negativity feels like confirmation. But if your internal voice is disciplined, then external negativity feels like background noise. So the question becomes simple. What are you feeding your mind every day? Most people wake up and immediately consume chaos. They check messages, they scroll through other people's opinions, they absorb complaints before they even center themselves. And then they wonder why they feel anxious and reactive. You cannot start your day in reaction mode and expect to live in control mode. Strong internal energy begins with intentional mornings. Before you allow the world to speak to you, you must speak to yourself. You must remind yourself who you are, what you are building, and why it matters. This is not motivational fantasy. This is psychological conditioning. Repetition builds belief. Belief builds behavior. If 10 negative voices speak to you throughout the day, but you never reinforce your own positive direction, the mind will default to the loudest repetition. The brain does not